Democratic Party believes that government has an important role to play in society. It fights against economic inequality. It advocates policies that battle racial and gender discrimination. But it wasn't always this way. The Democratic Party was once the party of white supremacy, supporting slavery and the Ku Klux Klan. To understand how the party made such a huge shift, you have to go back to its origins in the mid-1820s, when it sprung up supporting the presidential candidacy of a popular former general, Andrew Jackson. Jackson was an outsider, challenging the political establishment and the elites of his day, and his critics disparaged him as a jackass. But Jackson embraced the animal as a symbol of determination, and donkeys started appearing in newspapers to represent him and his followers. In the 1828 presidential election, which saw record-breaking popular participation, Jackson won in a landslide victory. So his supporters argued that they, and not the old elites, represented the popular will of the country, and they started calling themselves the Democratic Party. Jackson's administration immediately began expelling Native Americans living east of the Mississippi River, an issue that defined the new administration. After he signed the Indian Removal Act into law in 1830, 5 large tribes were rounded up and forcibly marched into territories and camps further west. And the Democrats' ambitions didn't stop there. In the 1840s, the party adopted the doctrine of manifest destiny, the idea that Americans, white Americans, were divinely entitled to dominate the whole North American continent. Democratic President James K. Polk put this idea into action, massively expanding U.S. holdings by annexing Texas, acquiring Oregon, and winning much of what's now the southwestern U.S. in a war with Mexico. But soon afterward, national politics devolved into bitter controversy over whether new states entering the Union should be permitted to allow slavery. Democrats said they should, since their support base was strongest in slaveholding states. Yet a new Northern party, the Republicans, sprang up in opposition to expanding slavery any further. When Republican Abraham Lincoln won the presidency, the South seceded, and the Civil War began. Once the Civil War was over, the Republican Party was bitterly unpopular among white Southerners who wanted to maintain supremacy over former slaves. So the Democratic Party promised to limit federal government intervention on behalf of black citizens. Democrats became effectively the only political party in the South, aided by intimidation and suppression of black voters. Democrats also won on state and local levels, leading to the constant abuse of the rights of black citizens. As the 20th century began, the country was changing, and the Democratic Party was changing too. A handful of individuals and corporations had grown enormously rich and powerful, using their vast fortunes to influence politics. And as a reaction to this, some reformers began pushing an agenda of progressivism, arguing that the government should take more of a role in regulating big businesses and improving ordinary people's lives. At first, these progressive reformers were present in both parties, but it was Democrat Woodrow Wilson who won the presidency in 1912 and put much of this agenda into action over Republican resistance. So the Democratic Party became the main home for progressives, and the Republican Party became more the party of business. But it was the Great Depression of the 1930s that sealed the Democratic Party's new identity as the party of government activism. In an effort to combat the crippling economic situation, President Franklin Roosevelt signed what was then the largest package of domestic government projects in American history, calling it the New Deal. And in the process of doing this, his administration dramatically expanded the size of government. Yet the party was still split over race. By the mid-20th century, it contained Southerners who staunchly supported segregation, liberal reformers trying to end it, and many politicians who were just happy to look the other way. But in 1964, when the Senate voted on the Anti-Segregation Civil Rights Act, this shows how the progressive reformers in the party had gained the upper hand, steering the party away from its racist past towards equality and social justice. But the Democrats in the South voted against the Civil Rights Act, remaining wedded to the idea of segregation. This chart shows the presidential vote for black voters. Around the 1960s, black voters who had already been moving towards the Democratic Party would begin overwhelmingly supporting the Democrats from then on, and conversely, the Republicans would take a huge hit among black voters. Meanwhile, white Southerners moved away from the Democratic Party they had been loyal to for so long, in part because of race, but also because of a suspicion of big government and a desire to defend traditional values against liberal activists. Democrats would go from dominating the South to losing almost all influence in the region. Thanks in part to this drop in popularity among white voters, Democrats started losing elections, often losing by huge margins. But demographically, the US is becoming an increasingly non-white country, and the Democrats have had a comeback thanks in part to minority voters. The huge influx of Hispanic voters has especially benefited Democrats. These demographic shifts helped the Democratic Party, once the advocates of white supremacy and slavery, to elect the first black president in 2008, showing just how much the party had changed over the years. Yet it's not entirely clear where the future of the Democratic Party will lie. But as America becomes more diverse, it's likely that the Democratic Party's appeal among minorities will continue to be its strength into the future.
All right, you guys, welcome. This is the Donovan Saadiq show. I'm on YouTube right now, as well as if you guys see me on Facebook. I wanted to show you guys that video because that video basically says a lot in one thing about the Democratic Party. Notice that the inception of the Democratic Party was based in racism, okay? Now, what that video did not tell you, I mean, a lot of us, we don't even know why we're Democrats. I'm a recovering Democrat, and I did a lot of research and a lot of study. And looking at the Democratic Party, I wonder, and I ask myself all the time, how do Black people overwhelmingly support a party that was established on racism and outright genocide of non-white people? Like you saw in the video, Franklin Delano Roosevelt did all these economic things that gave Black people unparalleled at the time opportunity that they never had. The Democratic Party didn't give a damn about Black people. The Democratic Party was the bastion of the Ku Klux Klan, a very racist terrorist group, till this very day has not been labeled a terrorist group. And yet Black people overwhelmingly are Democrats. So understanding the history of it, I sit here and I wonder, how can I support an organization that is based in racism? Now, a lot of people will say, just like the video said, well, they've changed over time. Have they? Have they? We are in 2021. Joe Biden, who got into office based on the Black vote, has yet to do anything for Black people. And I know you got some Negroes out there that'll say, well, give him time. Do you guys realize Joe Biden hasn't done anything in 4 months? Executively, he hasn't done anything in 4 months. Everybody that wanted something from him, that had an agenda for him, got it within the first 30 days. So what do you mean give him time? He has nothing but time. It ain't like Congress is giving him a bunch of bills and saying, here, Joe, you got to take care of this. You got to go do this, sign this. No, that's not happening. So quit with the bullshit excuses. It's not working. It's just not working anymore. Okay, so I want you guys to tune into my podcast, and I'm going to talk about that. And, you know, it's amazing that how many people do not understand the origins of the Democratic Party or where it's going. Okay, if you're going to be part of an organization, shouldn't you know what the organization is about and what they stand for? So here's my conclusion. Like you just saw there, a lot of the former white Democrats in the 70s turned Republican. So now you have white supremacists in the Republican Party that are outright whatever they are. They call themselves conservatives. But yet you still have so-called liberals in the Democratic Party that still isn't doing anything for you. So you've got the conservatives that are in the Republican Party that won't do anything for you, and they're blatant about it. Then you've got liberals who act like they're going to do something for you, but they don't do anything. Seems like we're in a conundrum. it seems, why do we support this? There was a video and it was taken down. I saw it this morning, and it was a video based on Ebony K. Williams. I don't know if you guys know who Ebony K. Williams is. She was formerly on Fox. I think she's on the Black News Channel or something like that now. I think she was a housewife of New York, but she has a background in journalism or something. And the video basically was talking about how the Biden administration has totally dropped the ball when it comes to Black people. And we have a midterm coming up. And it's like the Biden administration doesn't even give a damn. They were calling out, you think you have a Black woman, the backbone of the Democratic Party. I wish Black women would stop saying that, because if you're the backbone of the Democratic Party, so as a mother or a woman, you're going to do for other people and not your own children and not your own community. So that doesn't make sense. But they were calling out Kamala Harris, and the fact that she's a Howard grad hasn't done anything. The Biden administration hasn't done anything. This pandemic and trying to get us to take this jab and all this other stuff. And, I looked for the video, I looked for it, and it's gone. They had to take that video down because a lot of people, Black people that they were interviewing, were like, no, I'm not voting Democrat. No, I'm not going to do this anymore. So a lot of people are waking up from, what they are. And again, I'm a recovering Democrat. So it all goes back to my podcast, Black politicians ain't shit. But it really exposed what is going on. As you guys do know, here in California, they cleaned up Venice Beach, and I'm all for them cleaning that up. A lot of mental illness out there. However, where do these people go? Where do they go? Ordinances are being passed in city after city, especially here in California. They can't sleep under bridges. They can't. Basically, all of the land is owned by somebody, basically. So where do these people go and they're not trespassing? So basically, you're criminalizing being homeless. That's basically what it is. We've got all this cannabis that's legal in a lot of states. If you have no place to live, how do you smoke cannabis in public? That's illegal. You can't do that. You can have, recreational cannabis, but you can't smoke it out in the open. I know if you guys were like my neighborhood, a lot of people go to the park to watch their kids, and they're in the car smoking their weed, which to me is just insane. Insane. God knows what you do at your house. Okay. God knows what you do at your house in front of your children, but I'm not one to knock people who do that stuff. Okay. Because weed and drugs have always been in the communities, except that when I was coming up and the generations before me, it was always done in private. So those of you guys that are above my age or about my age, you guys remember the grown folks are in the back room. You didn't go back there. They're gambling, they're doing whatever their vices are, they're drinking or whatever. It wasn't done in front of the kids. But now we have raised a whole generation of children and grandchildren that think there's nothing wrong with damaging their brain as it's developing with drugs, with marijuana. Oh, it's just weed, it doesn't hurt. Whenever I hear that, they say, oh, it's just weed, it doesn't hurt. It's always the people struggling. It's always the people that are doing the weed are the ones that are strippers, that are trying to hustle, or they don't have anything. They don't have anything. They're living, pillar to post. And you expect me to follow your example? I don't think so. I don't think that's happening. So that video was taken down talking about Joe Biden. Now, as you guys know, Joe Biden said, as he was president-elect, don't expect me to do executive orders. It's unconstitutional. I can't do it. Now, the eviction moratorium had ended. And basically, and I've explained this over and over and over again, okay? Yes, the Supreme Court said that the CDC does not have the authority or legal precedent to order eviction moratoriums, okay? They don't have that. So the Supreme Court struck it down. What does that mean? What that means is basically the Supreme Court told Congress and Joe Biden, you need to make a law to empower the CDC to issue moratoriums. They did that 30 days out. The Congress had 30 days to do that. They're on vacation right now. All of these people are on vacation. So what's the excuse? What's the excuse? Why would Joe Biden wait 2 days before the moratorium is up to tell Congress to do their job? Then the moratorium is up, and then all of a sudden, because Joe Biden says, well, nothing I can do, I can't do anything. Executive orders are laws. Why do you think DACA is still being determined through the courts? Yes, Supreme Court recently said that DACA is not legal for the simple fact that there's money attached to it and all that other stuff. So basically, that program, parts of it, is illegal and supersedes what Congress is supposed to do. So there's parts and components of it. So now all 7 million people, black, white, Asian, whatever, I don't give a shit, are out in the street and they're facing eviction, right? I don't care if they had the money and they tricked it off. That isn't what I'm here to try to tell you guys, okay? I'm here to try to educate you guys on what is going on in regards to these so-called public servants, okay? And what is going on is a shell game. Shell game, pointing fingers. Hey, he didn't do this. He didn't do this. They didn't do that. It's all a shell game. Supreme Court said you need to make a law. 30 days out. Why isn't anybody questioning Congress of why, knowing that this is important, the pandemic is moving back up under the Delta variant strain, and yet they failed to do their job? All of these people need to be fired, okay? They're going to be here in about 8 months asking you to vote for them again. Look at your neighborhood. If you've got a bunch of homeless, your infrastructure, your streets are tore up and whatever, why are you voting these people back into office, especially the ones that have been there for 30 and 40 years? So Joe Biden, who doesn't do anything for black people anyway, because remember, if you didn't vote for him, you ain't black. So I'm not black. He was shamed into writing an executive order for additional 60 days. Here's my question. If people don't have the money now, what is an additional 60 days going to do for them? I'm just asking. If they don't have the money now, what is going to be different in 60 days? But this is the Democratic Party. People, we're out of time. Black people, we have no allies. When are we going to understand that? We are out here by ourselves. I was talking to a friend of mine late last night, and she said, well, Donovan, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I'm going to say this. I can sleep like a baby at night because I and others have been sounding this alarm. Dr. Cress Welding and all these people have been sounding the alarm for years. I can only speak for myself right now. For 6 years, I've been saying this is what's going to happen. You don't need $300 Jordans. You don't need to sell the house that you have and get a bigger house. You don't need to sell Big Mama's house and to distribute the money between each other. Make it a rental property and there's constant money coming into the family. I can sleep like a baby at night for the simple fact, like Noah in Noah's Ark, I warned everybody. And now here we are. Thank God my mother taught me what I needed to know in regards to finances and being content with what you got. I was talking to my uncle today, and we're just going to have to realize, people, we are going to have to realize, I'm talking specifically to black people, because the other groups, they're going to be fine, as we see. They're fine. Half of all homeless people across the nation are Black. We still didn't, we lost half of our wealth in 2007, 2008 during the housing crisis. This is it, people. I can sleep like a baby at night because I rang the alarm. I'm not saying, oh, I just don't give a shit about people, whatever. But at this point, what do? You've got two parties in this country that have sold the country out as a whole to the oligarchs. And we don't have a pot to piss in nor a window to throw it out of. This is it. Politically, in 9 years, if we don't get the right people in office to do what it is that we need them to do so that we can survive, Joe Biden said it as president-elect. You Black people are going to need to get along with these Mexicans or these Hispanics. Basically, he's saying we're going to be beneath them. We are now becoming a permanent underclass because of our stupidity and our assimilation into the white world. And in the white world, they don't believe in equality. And here we are. And it's just so sad. Another 60 days. Joe Biden was guilted into doing executive orders by people within his own party. And a majority of the people wasn't the CBC, Congressional Black Caucus. They weren't bothering him. They went on vacation. Did you guys see the Congressional Black Caucus sitting on the steps with Cori Bush, even though that was political theater, since we love symbolism? Where was the Congressional Black Caucus? But you see them all down in the border for those Hispanics. You see them all out for those Asians. More than 50% of all your homeless people in America are Black. You've got young Black girls right here in California on Figueroa Street, one of the major tracks in Southern California. They're just there, young girls selling ass. San Bernardino, I was talking to my uncle today. How can you run for office or run for re-election in the city of San Bernardino, or even show your face, and your city looks like San Bernardino, once a prominent city in California, in the nation? In the nation. I constantly talk about what happened to my city here. The biggest bribe of a city official in FBI history happened in my city of Moreno Valley. We have warehouses everywhere here, even in residential areas. Trucks all over the place. No truck stops. Homeless everywhere, coming from LA. No plan. Gentrifying the areas. And then another thing that has come to my attention recently, and it's so sad. Mobile home parks in California. Land is so lucrative here, and people are so greedy. These developers are so greedy that they are now closing various mobile parks and asking some of the elderly people that have decided to live in these type of situations, they have to leave, or when the new units get built, they get subsidized housing. That's the agreement. That's what's happening. So basically, younger generations are selling out the older generation. There's mobile home parks, and look it up on the map if you guys want to. In Southern California, where some of these mobile home parks are located here, like there's some in Orange County, there's some like near South Central, like Carson. There's a mobile home park in Carson that was on the news recently. You're in Carson, California. Prime real estate. They want to get rid of those mobile homes and build lofts so they could make more money. Greed is good. This is what's happening. And if you have a mobile park near you, go look up what's going on over there and see what's going on. We are turning in, we're already there actually, a nation of have and have nots, and Black people, we have not. We've never had. And unfortunately, Black people, in my opinion, when the crash happened in 2008, only a few of the blacks really understood what had happened, because the majority of us were like, well, what happened? What's going on? When you don't have anything, nothing affects you. This is where we're at. This is where we're at, people. Joe Biden was pissed yesterday as he was forced to sign executive orders. And I said this not yesterday, I believe on the Demetra K show. You know, because I'm a political guy. I don't know everything, but I'm pretty politically astute. I said, what is stopping Joe Biden from writing an executive order? That's a law. Yes, it might be challenged in court, but it's still a law. He can write it. He did it for the Asians. He did it for all these other groups. Obama did it for DACA. DACA has been in court since what? 2008, debating it, parts of it. They're breaking it up, cutting it up. It's a law. 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, judicial. They're all equal in branch. When the Supreme Court makes a ruling, that's a law. There's nothing stopping Congress from making equitable laws. The Democrats control all 3 branches of government. What's the problem? But you're going to wait to the last hour to put 7 million people at risk? And then Joe Biden talking about there's nothing I can do. We told you this man's a Dixiecrat. He doesn't give a damn about black people. Let me tell you guys something that was told to me at a very young age. Not that old saying, well, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. That's a true statement, okay? People could say a lot of great things, whatever. It's their actions. It's their actions. There is no way in hell you can sit there and tell me that the Democratic Party is for black people. I just showed you the video of its origins. So is it feasible? Is it feasible, people? One bird, 2 wings. White supremacy working together. Isn't it funny how they work together when it comes to the defense? When it comes to suppressing black people, they seem to work together. When they want to give Jews whatever, and I'm not trying to make this a racial thing or whatever, but what I'm saying is, like, you know, reparations for Jews, they come together. Oh, we got to do a bill for Asians. They overwhelmingly came together, but it's still the same bird. Is it feasible that the Democratic Party is still the party of racism? I believe it is so. How? Look at their actions. I don't know what else I can tell you guys, but I can tell you this. I can sleep like a baby at night because I've been sounding the alarm. The Black Authority, Professor Black Truth, Demetra K, Phil Scott. We've all been ringing the alarm, and a whole bunch of other people. Tariq Nasheed, a whole bunch of people out there. We've been ringing the alarm. And at this point, thousands of dollars went into people's hands. And I had a video last year where I was telling people, if you could pay your rent, pay it. How can you go in a court of law facing an eviction and go and tell the judge, I didn't pay this landlord $20 a month? You're showing no record of responsibility and no record of concern. So why should they be concerned? Even if you only paid half the rent, do you think if you were paying half your rent, which to me I think is reasonable, that your landlord that you've been there and working with you is going to get rid of you? You gave them something. But then again, you got a lot of landlords that want you out so they can raise the rent and bring other people in. Who are those other people? Hispanics, illegals, Asians, whatever. They want to get rid of the black folks and put us on the street, and that's what's happening. But you can't go into a court of law. It's almost like child support. How do you sit there and say, for a year, I didn't pay my child support, I didn't pay one dime? Yeah, you're in the rears, but if you consistently, I paid $10, $10, that's all I could pay. At least you have a record showing you made it an attempt to pay a debt that you know you owed. And yes, we should give you mercy. But how do you go into a court of law and say, I received thousands of dollars and I just stiffed this guy because I could? Now you still owe all that money. You didn't do yourself a favor, and you accumulated late fees. You didn't even do yourself a favor. Not only do you owe the original rent, you owe late fees, which the landlord could put on you. But if you were paying the man, the entity, something, do you think they're going to put late fees on you? Saying, well, this person continued to pay. Yeah, he called me when he was short, but he continued to pay. I mean, I don't see how you have a case of walking in there when you got thousands of dollars that went through your hand. And then if you go into a court of law, especially the eviction court, and they go to discovery, and they're going to say, well, let's see what you were, your taxes. What did you get? Oh, you got the stimulus. You got this. You got, how do you go in there? Now you want mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm tired of getting over. I'm tired of just getting over on folks. I want to be done with it and just have my own. That's where I'm at in life. And, unapologetically, this is where we're at, folks. And I'm speaking specifically to Black people. I'm still going to say Black politicians ain't shit, because they ain't. Black politicians ain't shit. This eviction moratorium was out there. You didn't see nary barely a one Black politician concerned, knowing that half of the homeless population in America is Black. Black politicians ain't shit. But hey, check out my podcast. I'm going to be on the podcast in about 2 hours or later on this evening, and I'm going to talk about this. And I'm also going to, again, talk about how Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is not for Black people. I'm not saying the Republican Party is either. They need to pay a political price. And here's what they're going to try to do. Oh, Trump is coming back, so you got to vote for us. Voting for evil is still evil. Doesn't matter if it's lesser, it's still evil. As long as they feel that they won't pay a price and your back is against the wall, they ain't concerned about you. You guys need to get into recovery, just like I got into recovery, and wake up. Wake up, Black people. Get into recovery and get some help. The Democratic Party is still a racist party. It was formed on racism. They throw you a few bones doesn't mean it changes the character of that organization. They have just found a way to win elections, period. And don't get me wrong. If I vote for you and you do something for me, that's how it's supposed to work. But when you don't do nothing for me, you don't get my vote. It's just a sad commentary, you guys. It's a sad, sad commentary. Hey, you guys, check me out on the Dimitri K Show, Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also on Free Flow Fridays. That is at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you're wondering about the art behind me, that beautiful art that looks pretty much like me was done by my niece, Jasmine Malloyd, and she does little arts and graphics. If you're interested in doing that, you need a logo or something like that. We're selling t-shirts, all kinds of stuff like that on blackanddopeapparel.com if you are interested in getting some t-shirts. Yeah, a lot of stuff, man. It's a lot of stuff. Here's what's going to happen, and I'm just going to close with this. Big Mama might be moving in with you, or you might be moving in with Big Mama. You've been out here all of these years on your own, doing what you got to do. The housing's not affordable. How are you going to make it now? Black people, we've been telling you, we need to become a community again and do group economics. Now we are going to be forced to be grouped in 1-bedroom homes with 2-3 generations living in them. The government is out of making public housing. They've given that to the developers, and it's all about greed. It's all about greed. They are no longer letting Section 8s in certain areas. They're just not accepting it because they can't make any money off of it. So that idea of renters and stuff, a lot of landlords are sick and tired of having to repair their properties because people don't know how to live. And then you got to think about this. Some of those landlords that you stiffed were your own people. We were your own people. So not only did you help in losing some Black wealth within our community because you didn't want to pay your mortgage, now that Black landlord either lost that property or has to spend an exorbitant amount of money to keep it. Good going, Black folks. We love to fuck over each other. Good going. Hey, I'm Donovan Saadiq, you guys. Again, check out my podcast, The Donovan Saadiq Show. I'm unapologetic, and this is where we're at. Good luck.